Are you a PhD, postdoc, or MD interested in transitioning into management consulting? Apply to Link to L.E.K by March 12th, 2023. What is Link to L.E.K? Well, it's an opportunity for advanced degree students to get to know L.E.K and the type of strategy consulting work the firm does through a virtual 2-day program. During the program, you'll network with L.E.K consultants and participate in a simulated strategy case modeled after the work done by L.E.K's life sciences team. But the best part of the program, you will receive the opportunity to an early interview for a full-time role with the firm ahead of the general recruiting cycle. Again, the program is open to current PhD, postdoc, or MD students interested in life sciences strategy consulting, ideally with a target graduation in 2024. So again, apply by March 12th. Click the link in the show notes or visit lek.com today to submit your application. Welcome back to Strategy Simplified. Today's episode is an edited portion of a free live event that we recently ran on LinkedIn. Join our email list, link in show notes to find out when our next live event is. In the episode, Naman discusses several early recruiting programs for advanced degree candidates. These are programs that MBB, L.E.K, and ClearView Healthcare Partners run each summer. Naman shares an overview of the programs, why to apply, how to apply, and best practice tips for your application and interviews. If you're a PhD, JD, MD, postdoc, or other advanced degree candidate, pay attention. These programs are your best chance for breaking into consulting. Keep listening to find out why.
If you represent today a consulting club at your university or a postdoc association, and you want some of the content that we're talking about today to get to your colleagues and your peers, reach out. We'd love to come and speak to your club or to your postdoc association. We do 200 private workshops a year for different universities and university groups all around the world. So if your organization would like to bring us in for a workshop, if you want some of this knowledge disseminated, to your colleagues, your peers, your institution to give your cohort a competitive advantage against other cohorts that are out there, then bring us in for a workshop. It's a lot of fun for us, and it's really, really meaningful for our partners as well. So let's dive in. What are the bridge programs? Right, they're a great way to learn about life inside of top consulting firms. They are here as an early recruiting tool. The firms are using this to get their hooks in you early, and they're also here as an early awareness tool as well. So they're 1 to 5 day mini internships is the way that I think about them, and they give you an inside look at that particular firm's work, culture, and people. And often the way that these mini internships are set up is that you're either working on a real world engagement, a la Bain. Bain will have you actually staffed on an actual case team where you are co-owning a work stream for 1 week. That's the most immersive experience out of these programs. But many other firms do simulated case exercises or simulated project team engagements to just give you a sense of what the work is like, to honestly evaluate you a little bit. They say it's non-evaluative, but to get a sense of who's got the horsepower and the structuring ability, the problem-solving ability, et cetera, to really excel inside of their environment. And there's a lot of just fun, wining and dining type of experiences as well that all the firms will do also, because they want to sell you on the consulting lifestyle. If you're accepted to one of these programs, it's because they like your profile. It's because they think you've got potential to make it through the gauntlet that is the full-time interview process. And so they want to show you a good time so that you want to convert to the opportunity to work there full-time. And so that you go back to your program, you go back to your colleagues, and you become an evangelist for that firm. And you talk about how wonderful Bain ADvantage was and how amazing it was to work with the Bain case team and how interesting the problems were and how supported you felt and how they took you out to nice dinners and wined and dined you and gave you a swag bag, right? Like there's a strategy behind all of what the firms are doing, and it's to sell you on working there. And I'll talk to you in a second about what your goals should be going into one of these experiences. But for now, just to break down what they are, they're that. It's a little bit of work, whether real or simulated, and a lot of social activities, a lot of networking, a lot of wining and dining. So this is a great way for you to build connections inside of these firms. You'll see on the slide here, there's really 5 firms that roll out and pursue and have built these specific advanced degree programs. You've got MBB, Bain, BCG, and McKinsey. And then you've got a couple of other boutiques that really play mostly in the life sciences and the healthcare space. So L.E.K and ClearView. And so these are your major firms that do these kinds of advanced degree programs. And this is a great way for you to build connections inside of the firm, to give the firm a heads up on the offices that you'd want to target in full-time recruiting, to build advocates for yourself inside of those offices, and to just get a sense of if consulting is right for you. If you go through one of these experiences and you identify at the end, you know what, that work wasn't super fun for me, or you know what, that was challenging, but it's not the kind of challenge that I really enjoy, then you'd rather find out now after a 1 to 5 day experience that consulting is not right for you, as opposed to going through, a year on the job before you figure that out and going through a full interview and recruiting process. So even if you decide at the end that consulting is not for you, it's going to be a valuable experience just to clarify that for you, and also going to be a great way for you to build your network, even if you don't end up going into consulting eventually. Here are the application deadlines for these programs. I wanted to make this clear right up front so you knew exactly the timeline that you're operating under.
Hey, I'm jumping in here really quick to voice over the application deadlines. Bridge to BCG is on February 28th. Bain ADvantage, March 1st. Connect to ClearView, February 21st and March 10th. Link to L.E.K, March 12th. Finally, McKinsey Insight, March 7th. Naman will share an update on McKinsey Insight in just a few moments. All right, back to the show.
A couple of things I'll just call out. These deadlines are coming up very quickly, right? It's already February 7th today. You've got 2 to 3 weeks to get your resume right and your cover letter right, and to prepare yourself for some of the interview and the online games that these firms are going to ask you to play as a part of the screening process. So you don't have a ton of time. So if you decide that, hey, I want to pursue one of these opportunities, you should start getting your resume straight today. This is something that you should start preparing for now, just to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward before the application deadline. Some of you more astute folks on the call may notice that Connect to ClearView, which is ClearView's program, has 2 application deadlines. You can apply by either deadline, but the firm itself has made it really clear and explicit that they are going to fill spots as they go. So it's possible that all the spots are taken before March 10th, when the second application deadline is. So if at all possible, I recommend that you prepare your application materials and apply by February 24th. If you're not ready, don't apply early. I want you to be ready. But the ideal here is that you're ready and you apply early. So just keep that in mind for Connect to ClearView. They're going to fill spots as they go. So you're going to put yourself at a little bit of a disadvantage if you apply by the March 10th deadline. Now, I know that many of you have been writing us, calling us, chatting us, and just beating down our door wanting to know what the heck's going on with McKinsey Insight. So McKinsey Insight is that firm's advanced degree bridge program. And some of you may have noticed that their application portal was taken offline last week. And some of you may have been freaking out about, hey, well, what's going on? Are they running Insight this year? Are they running Diversity Connect, which is another program that the firm runs? The answer is yes. They are running both of those programs, but the firm is changing the format that is using this year for that program. So if you noticed on the last slide, a lot of the firms that run these types of programs run them in person over a weekend. So for example, Bain, you're in person with a case team. BCG, you're in person for a weekend, either on the East Coast or the West Coast. But McKinsey is going all virtual, and they're running multiple iterations of Insight over this spring to expand the top of their talent pipeline when it comes to this particular candidate group. So they're shifting to virtual gatherings over several days. And these are going to be gatherings that are for candidates from like specific school groups and from specific schools. I don't have 100% clarity yet from the firm as to what this is going to look like, but I could imagine that they'll be running an Insight for the southern region of the United States, and they'll be running an Insight for the Northeast. They'll be running an Insight for the West Coast. That would be my best guess as to how they're going to structure this, but they haven't yet shared with us or shared publicly what it's going to look like. But they're going to be virtual gatherings that take place over a 3 to 5 day period. You're going to be separated by the program that you represent, and you're going to have a chance as you apply to Insight to let them know which offices you're interested in. And this is something that's new. You can pick global offices for the first time. So this is now just not going to be limited. It's still limited to candidates from North America, but it's no longer limited to candidates who want to stay in North America if they join McKinsey. So a little bit of a distinction there. You'll get to tell the firm which global offices you're interested in landing at full time. And there's a couple of reasons that McKinsey's doing this. Number one, they have a real commitment to diversity. And so they want to offer more opportunities for, candidates they wouldn't have been able to reach before to join, right? And there's just less of a barrier when there's a virtual, workshop or event that's happening, as opposed to, right, folks having to fly in for a weekend or fly in for a week of programming. Second, and this is really, I think, the main reason McKinsey's doing this, it's a little bit selfish, right? They want to expand the top of their recruiting pipeline without necessarily expending more expense or time into the process. So they're able to run so many more people through the Insight program when they're holding several virtual gatherings over the spring instead of doing one program on one weekend in one city. So they get to, like I said, right, move more candidates through the pipeline, through the funnel, and it's not really that much more effort for them, at least on a representative basis. So everyone can breathe easy. McKinsey Insight is happening. It's just going to look different. And we've received confirmation from one of our sources at the firm that they're currently updating the application portal. And the reason that the page is down is because they're making those technical changes. So we'll keep you updated on when that application is live. We have received no indication yet from McKinsey that they're moving the application deadline back. So the application deadline, as far as we know, is still February 28th. So as soon as the application portal is back up, we'll let you know. If you're on our email list, you'll be the first to know.
Okay, jumping in again to share a quick update. Shortly after our team recorded this episode, we received word from McKinsey that the firm is actually moving the application deadline for Insight back to March 7th. So that gives you a little more time to prepare. In addition, the landing page for McKinsey Insight is now back online. You can check it out at the link in the show notes to see eligibility requirements, program dates, and more important information.
All right, so McKinsey Insight, it's happening. Good news for everybody who's interested in working at McKinsey. I'll just quickly say this as well. This probably means that there are going to be more spots open at Insight this year than there ever have been before. They're running multiple gatherings, they're running virtual gatherings, but I wouldn't draw a line or a connection between that and thinking that this is going to be a less competitive program. One of the things that our contact and our source at McKinsey told us is that they had gotten so much demand for Insight this year that it prompted them to shift the way that they're running the program. And so I'm still expecting this to be an incredibly competitive selection process. There's going to be more open spots, but there is just an increase in the flood of candidates that's pursuing those open spots. So don't make the mistake of thinking that because McKinsey's trying to broaden and expand the top of the recruiting pipeline, that it's going to be easier to get a spot in Insight. It's just not what we're seeing and what we're hearing from our source inside of the firm. Okay, so why should you care? Right? Like, why should you care that the firms offer these programs? Why should you want to apply? It takes effort on your part. It takes time on your part. It's a selective process, right? There's some stress that comes along with that. The reason is that for advanced degree candidates, these programs are the best path to a full-time offer. Or let me put it another way, they're the path of least resistance. Okay, if you don't get into one of these programs, it doesn't mean that your chances are shot at a full-time role. It doesn't mean that you don't have an opportunity to break in later, but this is really the most streamlined way for somebody coming from a PhD or a JD or an MD or other advanced degree background to get into some of these top firms, right? And that's why they're so competitive. These are not practice applications for what you're going to do for real in the summer. Like, this is actually more competitive than full-time recruiting that happens in the summer because there's less spots available and there's almost just as much demand. Okay, so that's the number one reason why you should really take this seriously and want to pursue this, is because it is your path of least resistance to a full-time offer with the firm. Okay, beyond that, why should you want to be a part of these programs? Well, number one, and I've already mentioned this a little bit, is you want a chance to evaluate the firm. you know what, does L.E.K, does the culture there align with my personal and professional values? And the best way that I can figure that out is if I just get to be a part of the culture for a few days. If I get to interact with the people, if I get to go to dinner with folks and see them outside of work, if I just get to be in an immersive experience for 48 to 72 hours or more, I get a chance to evaluate the firm, the people, the culture, and see, hey, could I see myself here long term? Is this a place where I want to give a lot of my next 2 to 3 years to? So you get a chance to evaluate the firm. The firm also gets a chance to evaluate you, right? And this one is more intuitive. Of course, they're going to be evaluating you, but I want to make sure that you understand that it's a two-way street. You should be evaluating them as well. It's what top performers do. They have options. And so when you have options, you evaluate all of them. Now, what is the firm doing when they're evaluating you? Two things. Number one, they're evaluating your performance in the case simulation or the actual project. Do you have the quantitative analysis ability? Do you have the ability to structure an approach to an ambiguous problem? Can you communicate clearly and concisely? Can you communicate in a way that's top down, that gains buy-in and motivates action? Do you have the work ethic that's needed to get to an answer, right? You know what? It's 5:30. I'm done. I'm tired, but we're not done for the day, right? Like, how do you respond in those types of moments? Are you going to be the type of person that I'm going to want to be stuck at an airport with during a snowstorm, right? So all of these questions are questions that the consultants you'll be working with are asking themselves, and in some cases actually formally evaluating you on as you go through the program. So, have fun, be yourself, but just be aware that you're being evaluated as well as you go through the experience. And then finally, right, you get the opportunity to network at some of the networking events that the firms put on. You get access to partners and other leaders inside the firm. They're really putting a full court press on to get you to be sold on the fact that, hey, you want to come work at McKinsey instead of Bain, or you want to come work at L.E.K instead of ClearView. So there's those networking opportunities that are available. And for a lot of these programs, you are often guaranteed, and this is the kicker, you're guaranteed a first round interview invite for full-time roles. And those interviews take place in the summer. They take place in July and August. So if you get into Bridge to BCG or McKinsey Insight or one of these other programs, it's almost like a 2-for-1. Not only are you getting in for the spring experience, but you've also guaranteed yourself a first round interview invite for the summer. So that's why it's the path of least resistance as far as going from an advanced degree program to a full-time offer. So it's a big deal. It's meaningful. You should take this process seriously and invest the time that you have to make sure that you're getting your application right.
We'll be right back after this quick break. Are you an aspiring consultant? Ensure you are putting your best foot forward in applications by working with a management consultant team on a custom resume edit. We perform these edits over 2 rounds, and here's how it works. In the first round, we'll restructure, reword, and reformat your resume, removing what's not relevant and emphasizing what is. Invariably, there will be context and metrics we don't have access to, so we'll leave you placeholders and send the docs back so you can input that info. In the second and final round, we'll marry your inputs with the changes we've made to give you a submission-ready set of docs. If your inputs demand we reshape the story, then we will. 60% of our clients receive an invite to at least one interview, if not more, after getting their resume edited through Management Consulted. Get started today. The link to learn more is in the episode show notes. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Have you ever heard a new digital trend and thought to yourself, okay, does this really matter? Asking the right questions helps you cut through the noise and get down to what matters most. I'm Jim Hertzfeld, host of the What If, So What podcast, where we discover what's possible with digital and figure out how to make it real by asking what if, so what, and most importantly, now what? Subscribe and listen, and together we can turn big ideas into tangible actions so you can get shit done.
Okay, so this all sounds good. You may be thinking, hey, I'm sold. I want to be a part of these. They sound fun. They sound interesting. It's a huge open door for me. But is it meant for me? And the answer for some of you is no, but the answer for most of you is yes. So if you are an advanced degree candidate, and again, right, PhD, JD, MD, or other, and you are completing your program in a time where you'd be able to start a full-time role in late 2023 or 2024, you're eligible. So What this means really is if you fall into one of those buckets and you could start full-time work later this year or start full-time work sometime in 2024, you're eligible. What does that mean? If you have more than 2 years left in your academic program, you're not eligible yet because you can't start full-time work in 2024. So if you've got a year or less left in your academic journey, then this is the right time for you to be applying to these programs. If you've got more than that left in your academic journey, then it's good that these are on your radar, but then next year's program is probably going to be the one that you need to be applying for. So I just want to make that really clear. If you are able to start full-time work later this year or at some point in 2024, then you are eligible for these programs. Now, anybody who's a PhD or a JD or an MD candidate who is able to start work this year or next, you're eligible for all of the programs that I've walked through. Now, some of the rest of you are also eligible for some of the other programs. And so I'm not going to walk through like which subgroup is eligible for which program. Like I'm not going to map it out on a slide for you. I'm just going to ask Japheth to pop a link in chat to the article that we wrote on these programs, and you will find complete eligibility criteria in that article. But some other groups of candidates that are eligible for some of these programs include practicing medical doctors and professors who have less than 5 years of work experience. So if that's you, if you fall into one of those categories, you're not eligible for every program, but you are eligible for some of these. Current non-MBA master students. So this would be like you're in a master's of management program or a master's of finance program, right? A specialty master's program, right? And you also have a JD, an MD, or a PhD, right? You're eligible for some of these programs as well. Some of you don't have to have any type of JD, MD, or PhD. If you're just if you have a non-MBA master's degree and you've got around 3+ years of relevant business experience, then you're also eligible for some of these programs. Again, you're not eligible for all of them, but you're eligible for at least one. So if you fall into that category, then go to the article and see which program is right for you.
Make sure to check out the article Naman mentioned to see specific eligibility criteria for each of these programs. There's a link in the show notes.
Okay, I think I've tried to make that as clear as I can. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I want to make sure that if you all are going to put the effort in and the time in to apply, that you're actually eligible for the role in the program that you're applying for. So let's get into some resume tips and some interview tips here before we end with some Q&A. So let's start with the resume, right? And these are specifically for advanced degree candidates, but there's a lot of transferable tips and knowledge in here for anybody to help you consultify your resume. One of the big challenges that the advanced degree candidates that we work with, and we work with literally hundreds a year, helping them break into 170 different firms. One of their big challenges is translating an academic CV and academic experience into a business resume. And does it mean that you need to have extensive business experience? No, it doesn't. But it does mean that you have to know how to pull out the transferable skills that you already possess and that consulting firms are looking for, and pull those out and emphasize them on your resume. So some of those transferable skills are research, which I know everybody on this call, right, if you're an advanced degree candidate, knows how to do, right? Quantitative and qualitative analysis, stakeholder management ability, team leadership, budget management, right? Pitching stakeholders, right? Gaining buy-in, motivating action, right? Did you end up putting a 45-page grant proposal together that got you, right, $2 million in funding from the National Institutes of Health, right? Like, I'm more interested in that than in some of the minutia of the research that you've been doing, right? I'm more interested in the potential impact of the research that you've been doing, even if there's no impact realized yet, than I am in just the fact that you did research for the sake of research, right? Because you would never in consulting do research for the sake of research. So I'm looking for you to really rewrite your bullet points in such a way where I'm going to be able to look at the resume and I'm going to be able to think, okay, Japheth's a PhD. He's never been a consultant before, but he's utilized a lot of the same skills that our consultants utilize on a daily basis, just in a different context. That's kind of the reaction that I want a reviewer to have as they look at my resume. Yep, those are the skills I'm looking for. Yep, that's incredibly transferable to what we do. And if she did it in the lab, she can do it here, right? If she pitched the NIH, then she can pitch a CEO, right? That's the kind of transferability that I'm looking for on the resume. So transferable skills, number one. Number two, I'm looking for soft skills, right? Fair or not, one of the stereotypes about some advanced degree candidates is, right, you're great individual contributors, but stereotypically maybe not great team leaders. And I don't think that the stereotype holds true in my interactions with the advanced degree folks that I've worked with. But consulting firms are really looking for this blend of hard skills and soft skills. So talk to me about some of the leadership roles that you've been involved in. Talk to me about, even going back to your undergrad days. Did you lead an on-campus organization, right? Did you lead an executive team of 6? Did you manage a $50,000 budget? Did you grow membership by 25% year over year? Did you go pitch student government on funding? Or did you initiate strategic partnerships with companies and bring them in for info sessions, right? There's a lot of transferable skills in what you did that probably right now aren't highlighted on the resume. So I want to see that. I want to see that leadership highlighted in your on-campus experience. I want to see that leadership highlighted in your bench experience, in your lab experience. Did you lead a team? Did you, were you a co-PI on a project? Did you manage interns? Right? There's a lot of leadership that can be pulled out even of your, for example, your postdoc experience. Ideally, I'm also going to be looking for at least one commercial experience. So, even if this is a summer internship that you did during undergrad, before you decided to pivot completely to research or academia, even if this is, you working for a family business, even if this is you doing a pro bono consulting project for an actual entity, right? I'm looking for, you to have applied some of these skills, in what I, as a reviewer, would consider the real world, right? And fair or not, that's the vantage point that your reviewer is going to have. Is, okay, hey, I see all these skills. I can draw the line between how you've implemented them in your world and how you can implement them in mine. But what's even better is if you can show me that you've implemented them at least a little bit in my world and in my context. So, if you have some of that pro bono consulting experience, make sure it's on the resume, right? If you've worked for, a family business or family office, it should be on the resume. If you had a summer internship during undergrad that was for Coca-Cola or Tesla or Microsoft or wherever, it should be on the resume. If you have on your own had some entrepreneurial experience, it should be on the resume. If you have, helped a partner of your universities commercialize some of the research that's coming out of the university, that should be on the resume, right? Show me, if you can, that you've got some kind of business sense or acumen or experience. And for those of you who just can't resonate with any of the examples that I just mentioned, then a program called Strategy Sprint might be right for you. So we run 1-week consulting projects, a couple times a year, and anybody who wants to can join them to build real world consulting experience. We source the client, we scope the project out, we lead the project. You're working with an MBB consultant who's your project leader. And over a 1-week time frame, you're working with a team of 5 to 6 other people to solve this really strategic and top-line oriented problem for a real-world client. You own a work stream. You're the ones who is driving that part of the narrative as far as the deliverable is concerned. You're the one who's actually doing the work. And during the week, you're being mentored by your project leader who's got McKinsey, Bain, or BCG experience. If you need some commercial experience and you just can't find it anywhere else in your background, that's something that I would recommend for you. Next, I'm looking for academic awards. And I'll combine academic awards and top scores. And really what I'm looking for is for the fact that you've been a top performer, right? Can you show me on the resume that you've been a top performer wherever you've been? I'm not looking for one-hit wonders. That's risky for me as a reviewer. It's risky for me as a firm, right? I'm looking for a track record of impact and achievement and a track record of rising to the top, right? Cream always rises to the top. So if you've proven to me that, hey, wherever I've been, I've risen to the top, then that gives me confidence that when I run you through my interview process, you'll also rise to the top. Because it takes me a lot of time and a lot of money to interview people. So I'm looking to de-risk that process for myself. And so one of the things that de-risks that for me or helps de-risk that for me, show me that you've won academic awards. And don't just give me the name of some benefactor. I won the John Wooden Award at UCLA, right? If I haven't gone to UCLA, I have no idea what that means, right? Tell me, hey, I won this award. And there's one student out of 50,000 that wins it every year. and it comes with like $100,000 scholarship. Like, quantify it for me, contextualize it for me, tell me why it's impressive, right? And the same thing with top scores, right? So if you've taken the GMAT, if you've taken the GRE, if you need to go back to your ACTs or your SATs, right? Can you show me that you scored in the 90th percentile or higher in some of these? Or can you show me a track record of consistent like 3.5 and above GPAs wherever you've been, right? Like, show me that academically you've been strong, so that it just helps me make the case internally for you getting an interview. And so that, you're coming across as a well-rounded candidate. Hey, I'm strong academically. I'm strong, in my soft skills, leadership wise, and I'm also strong, in my, hard skills, right? I've utilized these in kind of research or commercial experience. So if you can check the box in all three of those areas, right, it makes it a lot easier for me to say yes to you. Last thing I'll just mention, bonus, is Excel. So as a post-advanced degree analyst at any of the firms that we've been talking about today, you're going to spend 70 to 80% of your day in Excel and PowerPoint. So in your bullet points, right, as you're talking to me about the analysis that you've done, can you kind of talk to me and name drop some of the software packages and programs that you've used to conduct that analysis, right? So, hey, I conducted sensitivity analysis in Excel. I conducted this kind of analysis in R. I built a database in Airtable. I, coded this in Python. I used a pivot table to extract this kind of insight, right? I want that kind of detail in the bullet points. And so if you can show me that you've got familiarity with some of the types of analysis that I would run as a consultant, or some of the types of software that I would use, bonus points for you. That's way more valuable, by the way, than just listing skills on a section of your resume. Anybody can do that. Anybody can make that up, right? You can't prove to me that you actually know what you're talking about, right? So it might work for a computer screen, but when a human being's reviewing your resume, which, by the way, at all of these firms, a human being will review your resume, it doesn't really add a whole lot of value. So integrate those skills into your bullet points. Don't just list them and then think that that's good enough. All right, let's talk about the interview process itself. So if you follow these tips, congratulations, you're well on your way to getting an invite. The next part of the process for you is to actually ace the interview. So let's close the deal here. Let me just first walk you through the process for a few of these firms. Bain is going to ask you to do 2 case interviews. They're going to be 40 minutes long each, right? This is like a legit interview process at Bain. So be ready for that. BCG is going to ask you to take an online biometrics test first. There are 2 phases to the biometrics test that BCG does. So these are like video games. They're simulated games. The first one is you have to run a lemonade stand. And then there are different criteria that you have to keep in mind as you're running the lemonade stand that BCG is testing you for. We've got a full breakdown of the biometrics test on the website. If you can find the link and share it, I'm sure folks would appreciate it. But we break down in great detail what that test looks like. So kind of phase 1 is you got to run the lemonade stand. You got to pass that. Phase 2 is you go through this series of neurological mini games. And the firm, again, is testing you on 6 to 8 different criteria. The biggest one, honestly, being the way that you view risk. So like one of the mini games inside of that biometrics test is you have to fill up a balloon with air, and you have to try and fill it up as much as possible without popping it. And so what the firm is testing you for there is how you view risk and how much you're willing to push the envelope. And can you straddle the line between filling the balloon as much as possible and not going too far? And so that'll be one of your kind of phase 2 tests inside of the online biometrics. On top of that, you're going to be asked to do case interviews at BCG as well. McKinsey is also going to run you through multiple rounds of interviews. These are going to be behavioral and case interview in nature. Okay, so you've got to prepare for both. Okay, so now that you know what's coming, how do you prepare? So I'm going to start you here at the top of this case mastery bubble here, whatever this graphic is. So look at the top here, market sizing. That's where I'm going to recommend that you start if you have no case experience. So market sizing would be like me asking you, size the market for dishwashers in Canada, right? Like it's very open-ended. You can make it up. Very easy to practice. I love them as an interviewer because I can make them up on the spot and I don't have to know the right answer, because what I'm testing you for is your ability to structure a problem-solving approach. I'm testing you for your ability to make assumptions, testing you for your ability to do calculations. I'm testing you for all these skills to where I don't actually need to know what the right answer is for me to be able to evaluate you. So I love these questions as an interviewer, and these will oftentimes be a part of the case interviews that you'll see for these programs. So for example, like one of the quantitative pieces inside of a Bain case interview will be to size a market. And so I recommend that you start here and just start to build some of the skills that you need for other types of case interviews as well. So start with 2 a day. As you're driving, as you're, on campus, I wonder what the market is for whiteboards in Columbus, right? And you can just go through this 4-step process. We teach you the 4-step process on the website. I don't have time to teach you today. But Japheth, if you can pop the link into the chat for the market sizing article, we walk you through that process in the article. Learn it, internalize it, practice, and start to get a handle on how to solve some of these ambiguous problems. Once you've got a handle on market sizing, I'd say you should probably do 2 a day for 10 days on your own. And then you should do 5 to 10 out loud with a partner. So once you've done that, you're ready to do the next thing, which is to read/watch 5 cases. And we've got case walkthroughs on our website, on our YouTube channel. There's a lot of places that you can go inside the MC ecosystem where we've got these case examples for you. Watch them, read them, most importantly, do them with us. So get a sense as you go through those 5 cases, how all the pieces fit together, and how the case flows and how long it should take you to complete each component of a case. Right? Just pick up on some of those things. Once you've done that, you're ready for an out loud practice, out loud interview. And my recommendation is that you do a diagnostic with an expert. And this doesn't have to be us, right? If you've got a contact at one of the firms who's willing to help you, use them. If you've got colleagues that have been in consulting or went through this process last year and were successful and they're willing to work with you, use them, right? Like there are a lot of places you can go to find experts, but if you don't have access to somebody who really knows what they're talking about, then come work with us and have us run you through a diagnostic interview and have us tell you, okay, you've probably got 4 weeks before BCG interviews you, and here are the things that you need to work on between now and then to actually land an offer and to get an invite to this program. And so we'll walk you through those gap areas, we'll walk you through your strengths, and then we'll build a personalized plan to execute on those in the time that you have, and with an eye to the firm that you're specifically targeting. So that diagnostic interview is really helpful to give you a sense of where your gaps are so that you can focus on filling them. You don't get an offer for being a superstar in one area. You don't get an offer for being a 99 out of 100 in math and a 29 out of 100 in structure, right? I hire the candidate who's an 85 out of 100 in all of the areas of evaluation. So you have to be intentional about filling your gap areas and not just over-indexing on your strengths if you want to be successful. That's why the diagnostic interview is so powerful, so that someone who actually knows what they're talking about can tell you what those gap areas are and can also tell you which gap areas don't matter. Because if you end up working with us, one of the things that we do with you is we show you how the firms are going to score you and how they're going to evaluate you. And then we build a plan to play to the test. So whether that's with us or whether that's with somebody else, make sure you get that. The next thing I'm going to recommend that you do is you do 10 cases twice. So go through the first time to run through the case, ideally with a partner, have them run you through it. And then as soon as they're done giving you feedback, go through again that same case by yourself immediately afterwards. And this time, push yourself to build a more robust framework. Push yourself to be faster at the math. Push yourself to get deeper insights from the math. Push yourself to have a more robust final recommendation. You already know where the case is going, so you can spend more time pushing yourself to get to deeper insights the second time, pushing yourself to be faster the second time. And that's going to give you an outsized return as far as the investment you're making of time and effort. If you're actually going to do 10 cases twice, you're going to follow our guidance and you're going to keep track of your learnings and where you did well and where you didn't as you go. And then once you've done that, you kind of polish off by doing some specific case drills. So you'll have a really good sense by now where your gap areas are still, whether it's math, whether it's structure, whether it's something else, and you can go find specific drills to fill those gaps. And we've got a ton of free drills on the Management Consultant site, math, structure, brainstorming, market sizing, et cetera, that you should take advantage of. And for those of you who end up working with us, you get access to all of that as a part of your coaching packages. And we'll build a plan for you, and we'll assign you homework as you go so that you know you're working on the right drills at the right time. But this is our plan that we work through with our clients. And so I'm just sharing this with you for free today, whether you ever end up working with us or not. But this is where I'd recommend you start as you start to build some case competence. And if you all do want to work with us, you've got a couple of different options. I'll ask Japhet to pop more information in the chat. But for those of you who are like, you know what? Like, I've never done this before. Like, I know that my resume is not good enough yet. I've never done a case interview before, and I just need everything. Black Belt's the package for you. We'll go through over those 2 rounds of edits, like I mentioned, and we'll rewrite your resume and your cover letter for you. We will build you an interview prep plan that's tailored to your gap areas, that's tailored to your target firms, that's tailored to your timeline. And then we'll execute over 8 one-hour one-on-one coaching sessions. So if you want everything, the live coaching, like the online drills and courses and cases, the resume edits, Black Belt's for you. It's your best value. For those of you that are more DIYers and you're like, hey, I want access to the cases, I want access to the drills, but I don't want any of the live coaching, I've got partners I can work with, the All Access Pass is for you. It'll give you access to all of our online curriculum, but none of the edits and none of the live coaching. But if you just want the stuff to work through on your own, the All Access Pass is for you. And for those of you that just aren't ready yet to commit all the way, and you're like, hey, I know I need interview help. I know I'm not ready for the interview if I got one, but I just want to focus on my application right now, then the editing package is for you. And we'll edit your resume, we'll edit your cover letter, we'll give you a 30-minute Zoom coaching session to walk you through the networking process and what that should look like before you apply to these firms, and just to ensure that you're setting your application up for success. So these are some of the options that I'd recommend for you all if you decide that you'd like to work with us. And again, Japhet, I'm sure pop the links in the chat. You can learn more on the website. If you have questions about these packages or just about anything I've talked about today, I'm going to stay online for the next 13 minutes until the top of the hour. And we're just going to open things up now for a little bit of Q&A.
To join us for one of these live Q&A sessions, make sure that you're on our email list to be notified about our next live event. We host between 1 and 3 free live events each month. The link to get on the list is in the show notes.
You can pop your question in the chat inside of LinkedIn. And Japhet, I'm going to ask you to just scroll through and pick out the ones that are the most relevant for the most amount of people and read them out. And then I will do my best to answer them. And so thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. You're more than welcome to stick around for the Q&A, but if you have to drop, then you're free to do so. And again, if you've got questions about anything we've talked about today, including some of these packages, I'm happy to speak to them now.
Thanks for tuning in. Are you finding the podcast helpful? We'd love your feedback. You can send us that in the form of an email. Shoot us an email at podcast@managementconsulted.com or leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We appreciate your support of Strategy Simplified. We'll catch you again on another episode very soon.